Good evening. My name is Kevin Ono, and I am the host of Focus on San Francisco. We're very excited to be back with you once again. Focus on San Francisco focuses on politics, entertainment, professional sports, economic development issues in the greater San Francisco area, and community issues. We are so very excited today because we have two outstanding guests from the Clarion Alley Mural Project. I want to just welcome each one of you guys to the studio. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having us.
So, Christopher, it's good to have you here on the program. I know that you guys are doing a lot of exciting stuff at your with your project. Now, you are actually a board member, is that correct?
Yeah, I am a board member, although it's board's in a very loose term. We are just starting to organize as a nonprofit, so we have our first inaugural board going right now.
Okay. And how many members are there on the board?
There are 8 members right now, with one emeritus member who is one of the founders.
Okay. Now, tell us a little bit about how you got to the Clarion Alley Mural Project. How did you get there?
Just kind of an act of fate. I kind of stumbled into it, but my whole life I had worked with community projects and a lot of work in social justice. I was born with hemophilia, and through the treatment of hemophilia, I got HIV and hepatitis C.
Okay.
So I was 4 years old. So my whole life has been, revolving around both illness and social justice work around helping people that have been ill, and dealing with, big problems like HIV. And so through that work, I was ended up helping the street community in San Rafael and people who are experiencing homelessness put on shows. And from that job, ended up at the Roxy Theater as executive director. It was kind of trial by fire. I don't have any education in being an executive director, but the theater needed somebody, and I was there and kind of jumped into that role. And while I was working at the Roxy, I met Megan Wilson, who has been the longest organizer with Clarion Alley Mural Project. Okay. And I hired her on as a development director for the Roxy. We were a 100-year-old theater that didn't really have any sort of plan of how we were going to move forward. Okay. And getting to know her, some of the artists from Clarion volunteered to come and help fix up the lobby of the Roxy. Okay. So then I got to know some of the people with Clarion, and where my history had been doing political work and also working in the arts and community, Clarion just seemed like a great fit, and I was invited to come and collaborate on a mural, and then from there offered to help in any way I could, and we started a board.
Now, I noticed that you brought on another person that's worked closer with you guys, and is it Shabaran? Shabaran. Yeah. And you are actually a curator, is that correct?
Yeah, I start curating some shows and different projects, basically.
Okay, why don't you just give us artists a little bit about your background, because I understand that you are from Iran, and just tell us a little bit how you got to the United States.
Well, it's a very complicated question, but I just came to United States 7 years ago with my partner. Okay. He was one of the first generation of doing graffiti art. He was known for street art, and then in green movement, basically he got really in trouble basically for some activist street art working, basically, that was happening. So he was getting a lot of questions, so we had to get out of the country, basically. He didn't want to list all the names of the artists back then. Never. And then, and then I came here, we both came here, and then we had our undergrad degree in art, and we were like very passionate, and then we kind of like dig into the community. Actually, Clarion Alley was one of the first projects and spots. Basically, we find out that they are supporting diversity and voices for artists, and they were talking about activists and political situation that happening everywhere. So we kind of like really like that, and then I studied. Later on, I studied Master of Fine Arts Social Practice in California College of the Arts, basically, and then I started working on different projects and curating I mean, that's a very short.
Okay, and let's just talk about some of the projects, and we'll come back to it. Let's just talk about some of the projects that you've done with the Clarion Mural Project. What are a couple of the projects that you've done there?
There were 2 murals. Well, the first time that I got to know basically Clarion Alley, and I really wanted to connect to Megan Wilson, was when I moved here, I just found out that it's a huge diversity and a lot of languages and a lot of different cultures live here that I didn't have a chance to learn about it when I was in Iran because of the situation of the country. So I wanted to know how I can connect, and so I was thinking about, okay, I will create something that people come back to me and ask me questions. So I painted a carpet, basically Persian carpet. I drew that and I painted it, and then I started installing it in different part of the city. And then I installed that under Megan's basically mural that was calling "Capitalism is over if you really want it." And then I sent it to her, and then she really liked it, and we started having conversation. And then me and Kayvon, my partner, we did 2 basically murals. One was Iranian. We kind of like supported the Iranian artists and writers and activists that were in prison at the time in Iran. And the second mural we did called "In Memory of," which is which kind of like dedicated to 3 Iranian women feminist writers and poets, basically, that we wanted to kind of like have that memory and you know, the message kind of like for Iranian diasporas.
And Chris, I want to come and talk. I want to come back to you, and I just want you to tell our audience a little bit about the Clarion Mural Project. What is Clarion Mural Project? What is the scope, and what you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, so the project now is 26 years old. When it started, it was just started for the residents of the alley and in that neighborhood in the Mission District. And as the popularity of murals and street art has grown now, what started as a neighborhood project, it's 200,000 visitors a year. We're in all the different guidebooks. And so the project has changed as the attention to murals and street art has changed. So it always has addressed political problems and social and economic problems within the neighborhood. But now, because we get so many different people from all around the world, we really encourage our artists to actually be more political and to take their time while they're painting, because where street art used to be this illegal statement about poverty and about access to art, we have permission to be on the alley, and therefore when we're painting these political messages, we can have this whole other dimension of being able to have conversations with people around the world and really to get deeper into what these problems are that we all face, these grand challenges, and potentially some solutions to them.
Okay, Chris, and we talked about Megan Wilson. We just need to let our audience know that Megan Wilson is actually the president of the board of the organization. So when you hear us say Megan Wilson, that's who she is. You and Megan found another group, another organization. Could you tell us a little bit about that organization? I guess homeowners.
Yeah. So it was actually it was revisiting a project that Megan had done back in 2000. And it was in response to the large number of people that she saw experiencing homelessness, and this was during the first .com boom. And so what she had done was paint, I think it was 250 signs that just said the word home, and in the H of the word had a flower, and kind of in a Victorian style. And what she did with those signs back in 2000 is she passed them out to people that were living on the streets, experiencing extreme poverty, people that were in danger of being evicted. Her studio at the time was at 16th and Valencia, and the Mission during the first .com boom was rapidly changing, as we see it's changing now. And then, you know, Clarion is located between 17th Street and Sycamore and Valencia in the Mission. So Megan handed out signs that said home in that area, people that were in danger of being evicted, businesses that were in danger of being evicted. And so back in 2014, we were asked to collaborate on a project, and we thought it would be great to revisit that project. So we call it Better Homes and Gardens Today.
Okay.
And instead of just painting the word home in English, we painted it in 52 different languages, still having a flower in the main letter of the sign. And instead of just handing them out for free, what we did is we partnered with 3 different organizations that work with people that are experiencing homelessness. The Gubbio Project, the Coalition on Homelessness, and At the Crossroads. And we sold the signs, and the purchaser got one of the signs, and we painted a companion piece that then we donated to the project. So there is a connection between the people that want to support and the organizations that do support. And we thought it was an interesting way to revisit this project because we see this wealth disparity in our city, this income gap, even greater than it was 18 years ago, or at that point 14 years ago when we started the project again. So we wanted to address that and be able to start creating connections between the housed community, the unhoused community, community that has a lot of access to wealth, and a community that doesn't.
Okay. And Shanir, when you decide to do a piece of art, give us the process what you go to. What kind of message are normally you trying to convey?
Well, most of my projects are about, dealing with disconnection and discommunication, basically, that created because of the political and cultural issues around us.
Okay.
And I work a lot on, on different subjects about that, on how I can create any piece. It might be a performance or video installation or a wall that kind of like create that bridge and fill that gap between people who might not necessarily know about each other because of the political barrier that created right now. So, yeah.
Okay, and when you talk about video installation, could you kind of like give an audience an idea of what you're talking about? Because when they hear video installation, they may not actually know what that is. Could you kind of like break it down a little bit and tell them a little bit more about what it is?
Yeah, so basically it's a medium, like a painting that everyone uses.
Right.
But I got into doing video. Video installation is like when you create a space for people to experience basically a subject that you want to convey, and you want the audience to just like get it. So like people go to that space and experience what you want to tell them, basically, by hearing, by looking at it, by the shadow or the light and everything that you're creating. And I got into the video more when I thought that I couldn't go back to Iran, so I was Skyping a lot to Iran, and that technology that created, that kind of like make the gaps little less was really interesting to me.
Okay. Yeah. And Chris, can you tell us, tell our audience how they can be supportive of what you guys are doing at the Clarion Project? How can people get involved? How can they support the organization? Because you guys are doing some wonderful things. So could you go in there and just tell them how they can be supportive of the organization?
Yeah, the main way we need support right now is just helping with funding, and I think that that's a thing that most organizations are experiencing right now that are nonprofits. So if you go to our website, ClarionAlleyMuralProject.org, there's a donate button, and that's always really appreciated. We're trying to get organized so we can have volunteers, because it is a community-based project, and the strength of a community-based project is how much we can get the community involved. It's a little difficult right now to try to have that organizational structure where we can have volunteers, but that is our goal. Because I just returned from Indonesia last week, and the sense of community on any sort of project was so strong. There's a saying there, gotong royong, which means collective solidarity, and actually the community comes even above family. And so that's something that we want to bring back from Indonesia, is to have a sense of that this might be one person's mural, but that we're all contributing to it, that we all can paint for it, or it's not necessarily even painting. It's, when the project started, it was just agreements amongst neighbors, and so someone might come out and say, like, I know how to do woodworking. I want to fix that fence so someone else can paint on it. And we want to get back to that space. Right now, I think with all the popularity, there's a lot of people who want to paint on the alley, but we have a limited amount of space. So, you know, there's also construction things, like there is a fence that is deteriorating on the alley that we as a project would like to be able to replace instead of the homeowner having to replace it. The homeowner has been very generous in giving us the space to paint for the past 20, 25 years. That's something that we can easily give back to the homeowner, but we don't have necessarily the resources. So things like that, if someone wants to contact us through the website, any of those email addresses, they go to me. I try to respond as quickly as I can, being an all-volunteer project, but if there is a fence, if someone can help repair a fence, that is a need that we have right now. So that things like that, and just keep an eye out. So as we grow, we're going to have more volunteer opportunities.
Well, Chris, do you guys have any kind of fundraiser scheduled where the community can let the community know when we may be looking at having a fundraiser in the future, and so these are the ways that you can be a volunteer, or you can make a donation, whatever you choose to do, or you can get with some of your friends and y'all can come up and just work with us on helping us get information out to the community. Is there any kind of discussion being talked about for a fundraiser for the organization?
The organization's had many different types of fundraisers depending on what projects we're doing. So obviously with this international exchange is a higher price project than we've had before. So we've done more fundraisers. We're going to have some through the Asian Art Museum that aren't scheduled yet, but they're going to be happening in September, October. So look at our website again for more information about that. And historically, what the project has done is put on a block party once a year.
Okay.
That's free for the community. Everybody's welcome to join. And if someone wants to leave $1 or $2 as a thank you, we're more than happy to accept that. And what we try to do is we try to make that money last throughout the year to help pay for paint. Okay. The artists are volunteering, but we can at least help them with their paint. So usually the third weekend of October is when we have the block party. Every year it seems like we're not going to, and every year it happens at the last minute. So I'm counting on having it at the last minute again this year. And it's a lot of local bands that want to support the project, and we don't have a lot of technical rigs, so they typically are punk bands, 3-piece punk bands that are really easy to set up. We have 2 stages going, and we play until we have to keep quiet for the neighbors.
And let me just pull up some photographs, and you guys be able to explain to me what these photographs are. These are going to be some of the ones on the mural project. Mm-hmm. Now this is, Chris, could you please explain to this one that I got up here right now?
Yeah, so this is one of the more recent pieces on the alley. This is a piece by Mel Waters. Mel is a tattoo artist and a very talented spray artist. He is the artist who did the large Santana piece on 19th Street. This is a spot that he has on the alley that normally goes as memorials for people. And the one that preceded this piece was a memorial to Prince that went up the day after Prince passed away. And all of a sudden Mel just decided to change it to this image, and which has traditionally been memorials, just a very powerful image about mothers wanting to protect their children in a time when it's not necessarily safe with different types of violence in our community, police violence just amongst community members. So it's one of the things that we see more and more on the alley is memorials and more statements like this from the community of just enough is enough, what's happening.
Okay, and let's look at another mural and see if you can explain this one as well.
Oh yeah, that is a piece by Chris Gonzalez. I don't know if you know more about this piece than I do. I've been spoken to Chris about this piece really.
So now why don't you tell us about this piece?
Well, I know that Chris actually working a lot and being a voice of Palestinians basically in Palestine and what's happening right now. So most of his mural is kind of like about that, actually supporting the community and telling everyone that what's happening in Palestine right now with all the war and stuff like that. So I'm not particularly know about this the image, actually the portrait, but I know that he's really working on that and his work is really amazing.
Okay. Yeah. And one thing I want to, with the 3 minutes that we got left, you guys just did a trip overseas. Could you, y'all just went to Indonesia, is that correct?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit what that was about.
So we were visiting a project that was from 15 years ago called Sama Sama, which was an exchange between Yogyakarta, Indonesia, and San Francisco. And Jobja is very much like a sister city to San Francisco, and the art scene there is really powerful. A lot of really on-point political art that lines up with our vision with Clarion Alley to be a voice of messaging the political issues for the community. And so this exchange, we're in the middle of it now. In September and October, the artists from Indonesia are going to be here in San Francisco working in the Tenderloin Civic Center area. Okay. And so yeah, the project was just focusing on what does political and social economic justice look like on a community level, and what can we learn from each other, and what does a healthy community even look like. And this one we made a point to include families, because families are part of a healthy community. And we also worked with the disabled community in the Kampoon, the village in Jobja that we were working with. And so it was, important, I think, to work with the disabled community, because a community disables itself when it doesn't consider the needs of all the members, because we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. There's a great quote by Eli Clare in a book called Brilliant Imperfection, saying that the disability doesn't lie in the legs that don't work. The disability lies in the room that's only accessible by stairs. Okay. And it's an interesting perspective to hold when you're thinking about a healthy community. And so that's what we were trying to do with this exchange.
Oh, okay. Well, it's wonderful, and some of the great things that you guys are doing. Now, we want you to come back when you have any new information. If you're going to have a fundraiser, come back and let us know, because we definitely want to be supportive of any kind of event that you're having, because I think what you guys are doing is doing some wonderful things. We got about a couple of minutes, and our next show is going to be on September the 5th. We have a young lady who's running for Board of Supervisors, Christine Johnson. She's going to be our guest. We want to thank you for watching the show, and that we hope that you'll be here with us next week at 5:30. I mean on September 5th at 5:30. Okay, we finished. I know we rushed through there.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any questions or anything?
No, I mean.
We have to go like real quick.
Okay, can you unmic them? We got to get everybody on mic. We don't.
Yeah, so no phone. We ran out of phone time.
Yeah, we ran out of phone.
Okay, yeah.
Let's get to the phone.
Chris, you need to.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, so we finished. We didn't get a chance to get to the
It happens.
All right.
Okay, I'll walk out with you.
Okay.
Okay. Let me just walk out.
Kip forward. There we go. All right, Kip.
Thanks.
Low key a little.
I always look at someone in the manager every week, because it's so easy. Because you just like you want to see how you look.
In terms
right.
of improvement, you're actually gotten a little better. Like not looking at all.
I know. I'm
so
trying.
you do like once, but like not.
Yeah,
like
yeah. I'm
often.
trying. I guess the trick that he was saying was to see the little
Yeah, look at the
screen
small screen.
instead of the big one. The big one. Like the ones that are next to the camera.
Yeah,
then
you should
can
not look
see.
at those.
No, you can, but you
okay.
can. It's better to look there than all the way up.
Okay,
It's big.
perfect.
Come on.
Yeah, always look at the small one.
Perfect.
Look at the red light.
It's
See,
definitely
like,
going to
you
be
can see
distracting.
On that one where that'll give you an idea of like how.
Look at that red light.
Best.
Because you want to, it's like tendency is to be like, oh, there I am. Like,
What the fuck?
Yeah, so we'll do sound check.
Sorry. Oh, he didn't stop record. Damn it.
Oh.